Mosora Health YouTube channel. This is Anthony Mosora, and it's a pleasure to be here with you all. And we have a guest with us today, and that is Lynette Gryniak of Desa Leaf. She is the owner of Desa Leaf, and I wanted to have her on here today because as someone who has a background as a nurse and health coach, I've had experience working in both the conventional medical system as well as the holistic arena. And after working in the conventional medical system in a variety of roles for nearly 13 years, I've seen the benefit of conventional medicine for a number of situations. It has legitimate value, but that being said, it is the predominant system of medicine in the United States, and it has its purposes, but it definitely has its limitations. So it's been a journey for me throughout the years to just really avail myself of other strategies which have a track record of helping people in some significant way on their journey of health optimization. And so, moving down to Florida here, I recently moved, and it's been great to network with people and to learn of other people in the area who are providing value to help people on their health journey. And thankfully, I was introduced to Lynette recently, and I heard about her. I heard about her business that she has. And so, Lynette, it's really good to have you on here. I appreciate your time. And I'm just going to go ahead and kind of share a little bit about Lynette and her business. And after that, I just want to open it up for her to talk, and we'll just dive right in. So about Lynette. So Lynette's personal journey on the healing properties of Kratom began in 2014. And this is her words here. I suffered from debilitating menstrual cramps for decades. Every month during that time, I literally could not leave the house to go to work, attend social functions, or enjoy life. The doctors kept prescribing me painkillers. However, I knew that taking so many pills was not healthy and was doing damage to other parts of my body. Over-the-counter pain remedies did very little to alleviate the pain or provide the relief that I needed. In 2014, I discovered Kratom. Kratom aided in the management of pain and provided a sense of well-being. And since I much prefer to use natural products, I love that Kratom is completely free of any chemicals and safe since it comes from the earth. Our goal is to educate others on the miracle that is Kratom so that you too can experience this amazing natural plant. And that is from her own words. And so really, I appreciate you being on here, Lynette, and I'd just like to go ahead and open the dialogue up here. So if you could just kind of tell me more about what you do at your business, Desa Leaf, just kind of give us a feel for that. And also kind of like how you got into this journey that you're on right now. What brought you to this point, do you think, of what you're doing today to help people?
Okay. Well, Anthony, it's definitely been quite a journey. Back in 2014, when I first discovered, now remember, people pronounce it differently. Some people say Kratom, some people say Kratom, and in Southeast Asia, its origin, they say Kratom. So there's no wrong way to say it. But when people listen, I always get that. People correct me, and I'm like, no, there's no right way. It's Kratom, Kratom. So back in 2014, I had a friend actually who introduced me to Kratom. And like you read in my bio, I definitely didn't want to go down the pathway of the painkillers. I've seen a lot of family and friends go that direction, and I've seen a very negative impact that it made on them all. So when my friend introduced me to this, she said, listen, just sip it. She made it as a tea for me. And she said, give it about 20 minutes and see how you feel. And honestly, back then I was a little judgmental. I was like, what is this hippie stuff? Back then I was just starting my journey with natural medicine. So I drank the tea, and next thing I knew, like 20, 30 minutes later, I felt great. It was so interesting because it wasn't just the pain going away, but I had this sense of well-being, just sort of like I could just sit and relax. And from that point on, I was like, I need to learn more about this. I think this can help so many people that I know. So I found out where to get it. And this is when I first started. So I bought it local. I made it as a tea and I started giving it to some of my friends and family members that also have pain issues or depression or anxiety or sleep issues. And it was working. So then I said, I just remember one night I was sitting alone and I said, I come from a TV and radio industry since I was out of college. And I go, I just feel like this is my calling. Like, I feel like I need to help people with this. So, God or higher power, just show me what I'm supposed to do. Like, I'm ready for a new journey. I never thought I would be getting into Kratom, but just show me. It was like, I felt like this passion that I needed to do this. I needed to help people with this. So next thing I know, I get in touch with an importer who imports it from Indonesia, which is where it mainly comes from now. And I couldn't believe how it was just crazy to me how natural it was. It was a leaf from a tree, dried up. That's it. And so when I was able to import it, actually import it from Indonesia, I started to just give out some free samples to family and friends. We were just kind of having conversation about it, talking about it. And when I started getting the feedback from people, I was like, I think I want to make this my life, my business. I think this is the calling. I think this is direction for me. So that's kind of how it all started. I never in my life thought I would be going from TV and radio to selling a leaf from Indonesia.
It's interesting how life can play out. And
Yeah.
well, I'm very glad that you got into this and great to be on here with you to talk about it. And thank you for sharing that journey here, that phase of the journey, how you got to where you are right now. And
Yeah, I love bringing it up again because it always reiterates, not just my story, but how sometimes you really never know what you're going to do in life. And if you are the type of person that wants to help other people and it's a natural ability of yours, it may just happen out of nowhere. You may really just wake up one day and go, oh, I think I'm doing this. Okay. It's just the most oddest thing in how it happens, but you have to follow it. You have to go with that feeling.
that's great. That's great. And so, as a nurse, as a health coach, as someone who's worked with a number of different doctors, and I see people working on the front lines, both in conventional medical system and the holistic arena. You see people suffer a lot, and a lot of people I know have pain conditions, and
Hmm.
unfortunately, the dominant system of medicine here in the United States, like you mentioned, focuses on these pills, these pharmaceutical, synthetic medications sold. They can have a lot of side effects
Right.
and can cause a lot of problems, especially if they're not taken appropriately. And so it's good for me, as someone who's really adopted the holistic paradigm. I try to look through the lens of a holistic provider. I mean, I am a nurse and a health coach. I'm not a physician, but I've been mentored by some of the top physicians, holistic physicians, who use various strategies, science-based, clinically verified holistic strategies, whether it's nutrition, nutritional supplementation, botanical medicine, and
Mhm.
we really aim when we're working with people to try to get to the root of these issues they're dealing with. But we also understand, especially when it comes to pain, that until that point of restoration comes, let's say, if we can try to help them with different lifestyle factors to really try to get to the root of the issue, if at all possible, while they're doing that, we want to really focus on, okay, well, what can we do in the meantime to kind of help them cope, to kind of help them be able to manage with the situation that they're in right now.
Right.
And usually when you think about conventional medicine, they really focus on symptom suppressant pills.
Oh yeah.
So, it is good. I mean, it's good to focus. I always try to focus on trying to get to the root issue, but to be aware of the different um, strategies out there, whether it can be used to deal with the root cause, or if it's something that is natural and a safer way of dealing with the problem to manage the concerns they're having, manage the pain, for example, while they're also doing some other things. I'm always open to learning. And so, I heard about this, and I know I've been pronouncing it different. Sometimes I say kratom.
Yeah.
So I've been
They're
saying
all
it in a number of ways. But I remember learning about it a few years ago. And then I remember just kind of off and on, just diving in and learning. And I remember recently I looked on pubmed.gov, which is a very reputable database to look into the literature. And I just typed in kratom, for example. I typed in kratom and pain. And all one has to do is to do that and to see the sort of research that is behind this plant and its uses. And I think it's very important for anybody, because I'm a big advocate of critically thinking. I'm not here to tell you Lynette's not here to tell you what to
right.
do. We're just providing information.
Yeah.
We're not here to be, a substitute for your, um, medical provider. We're not here to, we can't say that we're here to treat, cure, reverse, or prevent disease. We're talking about strategies that can help, support your health, your well-being, et cetera. And we're just about educating people, providing information for you to critically think, do your own investigation so you can come to your own conclusions. And, we ask people, by all means, if we encourage people, especially if you have a competent, local, licensed, and regulated holistic provider who can help kind of gauge the success or lack thereof of any particular strategy you're trying out. It's a good idea to do that. They can kind of help keep a finger on the pulse of how things are going. They can help. But we just want to provide this information because evidently a large amount of people are getting benefit from this. And, just like anything else, and I'm sure Lynette can talk more about this here, we'll really just open things up. Just like anything else, I mean, water can be used incorrectly, right?
Right.
You can drink too much water. It can be fatal if you drink too much water. It's very hard to do, but you can have too much of about anything, too much oxygen. Okay. Yeah. So, we'll get into some of that here, but generally speaking, it's just been pretty fascinating to learn about this plant and to see the sort of benefits it has. And we'll go ahead and get more into that. So, yeah, Lynette, appreciate you telling me about, just information that you've provided so far. I would like to ask you, in light of what we just talked about, when it comes to working with your clients, I know, you've mentioned pain, and I know you've had a number of challenges. I'm sure the different clients you've had.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I'm curious, based on what you've learned and what you've seen working with your clients, what are some of the issues that they've had um, that you've noticed, and that perhaps kratom could be of benefit for from your own experience?
Well, I have such a wide range of people that I work with. And so when I first started the business, my goal was to wholesale it so that I could make it available to alternative medicine doctors, health food stores, and then that way they can repackage and resell it. But what happened was I really enjoyed getting that one-on-one time with people. The stories that I would get, people, their lives being changed. So for example, I have a lot of people that it's for pain, but I also have people that come to me, Lyme disease, fibromyalgia. I have many nurses and doctors that come to me and take kratom. But the biggest one is, for me, it's just when somebody calls me or texts me or messages me and says, is this really true? You know, what I'm taking, is this actually working? Like, I can't believe it. I got out of bed today. I didn't, want to take any of my pain medicine, or I feel great. Or I had a grandmother who's like, I picked up my grandkids today and I actually ran around in the yard with them. And when I got those stories, I was like, oh man, I have to like keep that one-on-one with people. So I decided to continue doing wholesale, but then I started opening it up to work with, people one-on-one. And that's how I became an educator as well. So, I'm a Kratom importer, reseller, but I also call myself an educator because I'm constantly learning. I am part of the American Kratom Association. I've attended many of their conferences. Um, but just having the stories of people that have had their lives changed, it's been it's just been so wonderful to hear that and to know that these are people that I got to see them on their journey.
That's great, man. Yeah, it really is. I can only imagine, we all have a role to play, like those that are working in this world of the large territory, right, of health. Um, there's so much value out there, and everybody has their own unique background and skill sets, uh,
Right.
and perhaps their long suits, and perhaps their points where it's where it's not their strength. But learning about this plant and learning about you, and learning about its real life application for a variety of concerns. I'm one of those people that throughout my life, I've always enjoyed just experimenting with different things related to health. So I have to say that I have tried this out,
Hmm.
and I definitely admit when I personally took it, my personal experience is that I noticed. I don't have. I mean, I'm in really good health, and I
Right.
don't have any pain issues. But what I did notice, and we'll get into this here a little bit more, what I personally noticed was I was able to concentrate better. My ability of, being able to focus was lifted. Let's just put
Oh
it
yeah.
that way. I did notice more energy, a mood lift as well. And there was no crash like you would get with coffee. I didn't feel jittery,
Right.
and from that first experience I had, um, and I liked that. And so I'd like to actually get into. So when it comes to kratom, I know there are some basic things to be aware of. So could you kind of tell me about the different strains, and kind of for someone who is a total newbie, kind of some basic information about the strains, and perhaps if they were interested in taking it, um, how they may start going about that, and just want to kind of open it up for you to talk
Yeah.
more about that.
And that's probably one of the most confusing things for people. And back in the days when it started becoming really popular in the United States, there were a few companies that were marketing the plants with funny names. Like we had a tea place here that called one of their teas Rainbow Warrior. And that's fine. It's all for marketing. But the problem with that is that you don't know what strain you're getting. So basically it's pretty simple to remember, red, white, and green. And so we now, depending on the way that the leaf was dried, is the strain that it becomes. And so that's also another confusing part. People have said, oh, there's a red leaf, a green leaf, and a white leaf. No, the leaf is always green, but it's the drying process and how it's dried is what the alkaloid that will come out from that. So when we say red is more of pain relief, more for relaxing. Also has like a little of a euphoric feeling to it. Green is like a energy, focus, also euphoria, and for pain relief. And then white is energy and focus. White doesn't seem to have as much of the pain relief as the red and green do. But again, it's the way it's dried, and it really is just up to you. It depends on, your body. Not everybody's the same. I don't know what supplements somebody's taking. I don't know their diet. So I always say to people, try each one out and just document, just write in a journal, what did this one do for me? How was this one? And don't think that red, when we say relax, it means you're going to fall asleep. Because sometimes people think that, like, oh no, what happens if I take the red by accident at 11 a.m. and I have to go to work? You're not going to fall asleep. When we say, relax, it really is to relax. So if you're having a pain in the morning and you just need a little bit just to, get yourself going, then you just, try a little bit of it and see how you feel. You could also blend the strains. You can blend like a green and a red, a red and white. For example, I blend red and white. I get red for the pain relief, and I do white because I'm going to go work out at the gym. And it gives me a great workout. And again, no crash like you would get from caffeine. So 3 things, red, white, green. It's really that simple. If you start seeing all these wacky names and you start to get confused, you have every right to ask the person you're buying it from what it is. If they say it's called unicorn, okay, well, what strain is unicorn? Is it red? Is it white? Is it green? Is it all 3? And that way you'll at least know now, oh, okay, I'm taking red, white, and green. That's what unicorn is. So just make sure, make sure you always feel like you could communicate with the person you're buying it from or the place you're buying it from. If they can't answer that question, then because that's a pretty basic question, then you may want to talk to someone else.
Definitely. No, I appreciate that. Thank you for that information. And
Yeah.
I did want to ask you, so as far as the kratom that you purchased, for example, from Indonesia, can you kind of tell me about that process? For example, the sort of quality measures. I know I was reading on your website and it talked more about that, but could you be able to talk for the listening audience about kind of that process of, from the time it's grown in Indonesia to the time it comes to you, kind of just give a general overview for the audience to be aware of?
Yeah, so I've been dealing with my farmer since 2016. It took me a couple years to really find somebody that I can work with that had really great quality. Somebody that when I had my lab testing done, it all came back good. Because, unfortunately, we have to keep in mind that it is natural. It is a rainy season in Indonesia where it grows. It is a rainforest type environment. And the drying process is very important, again, not just for the strains, but also for the condition of any mold or any other issues that can happen during the process. So basically they'll take the leaves and they'll dry them out. And then after they dry them, they'll put them into a grinder. So the leaves then become a powder. But you can also buy it as actual tea leaves if you want. I personally really like the powder because that's just my, what I like and what my customers like. But you can also buy it just the leaf, without it becoming the powder form. So after they grind it up and put it in the powder form, I get it imported to me. And then from there, I unpackage and then I have to send all of the new my new order product to the lab, and I deal with a couple labs. Sometimes there's backups. Kratom's become so popular now, so what used to take 5 days can now take sometimes 14 days to get my lab results back. But it is what it is. That's what happens when something becomes pretty popular. And then from there, I make sure I look out over all my labs in the beginning. If let's just say I'm talking to somebody that is listening to you right now, your show, and they want to know the levels. Again, you should be able to talk to wherever you buy it and ask them. And it should always feel like an open conversation. There should be no weird secrecy or uncomfortable feeling to ask, hey, what do your labs show? When was last time you had labs done? Did it show any high percentage of mold or heavy metal, any of that? And you got to understand, there's mold in all foods, and there's percentages of stuff found in all of the foods that we eat. We just want to make sure that's in the right percentage. Now, if you have a mold allergy and you're taking your Kratom and you're noticing you're getting very, big headaches, you may feel tired, maybe some inflammation, that could be a sign of mold. And so we take it really serious. The vendors that I work with and the American Kratom Association, this is something that we are very serious about. And so a lot of us are following, good manufacturing process to make sure that we get the correct lab testing done.
Okay, well, awesome. Thank you for that. And
Mhm.
so when it comes to just this topic of kratom, I wanted to ask you more also just kind of about the educational aspect. I know you mentioned that you like to educate people on this. So what would you recommend? I mean, I know your website, which here in a bit, I want you to tell us about how people can get in touch with you and your website, but what would you recommend as far as a starting place for someone who really wanted to dive in and get a deeper understanding of kratom and its benefits? Uh, what are some resources that you would point them to?
Well, I think the first thing to let people know is that the University of Florida, the College of Pharmacy, in 2018, they received a $3.5 million grant from the NIDA, which is the National Institute of Drug Abuse. And so Dr. Chris McCurdy, who is the research scientist over there, they're doing ongoing studies on kratom. So if you're somebody that loves to learn the research aspect of it, that would be a great place to go. So it would be the UF College of Pharmacy. And they just released an update 2 days ago, I believe. They've now been doing it for 2018. Now we're in 2021. So they researched and they have some really great findings. So if you want to go and look at that, that was posted, I believe 2 days ago. And then another great place is the American Kratom Association, and that would be americankratom.org. They are constantly fighting to keep it legal. The FDA and the DEA did try to ban kratom in 2016, and thankfully, with the American Kratom Association and a ton of vendors and a lot of outspoken people, and writing to our congressmen and writing to our legislators, we were able to reverse the ban. And it was actually one of the first times that we, the people, were able to reverse a ban from the DEA. And that was amazing. So the American Kratom Association has a lot to do with that. They constantly need donations. We do have a lobbyist and we have people fighting for our whole community. But if you want to learn more about that part of it, that's where you would go. So you've got UF College of Pharmacy for more of that research, science, biology. And then you have the American Kratom Association, which is learning about the legalities and any other news that's constantly coming out and who we're working with and who's fighting with us. And then as far as actually just learning about, just basic, like we're talking about now, I love when people contact me, email, if they just want to ask me basic questions or deep questions. Maybe they got kratom from someone a few weeks ago. They didn't get something good out of it, or they didn't, they just didn't feel right about it. They can ask me questions. I could sort of go over, okay, so this is what happened. Maybe it's this. Did you ask them for their lab tests? I've actually done that many times. And it's not just because I sell it. It's really because I like to educate people and help them. And then that way they share it with their friends, that share it with their friends, that share it with their friends.
Awesome. Okay, good deal. So thank you for those resources so that people can learn more about it. I was going to ask you too, so regarding kratom. So I know that, so I know people that are listening to this are going to want to learn more. I was going to ask you, so when it comes to the states, I have clients that are in different states in the United States. I have one of them is actually over in Europe. But when it comes to the United States, I don't know, every state is pretty much different.
Right.
But can you speak specifically to Florida and kind of the status of Florida when it comes to kratom, kind of where we are right now, and then maybe just kind of a general overview of the legality of it in other states.
Yeah, so in Florida, it is legal everywhere in Florida except for Sarasota County, and that's the Southwest Florida. Um, and I don't want to elaborate too much into it, but it does go back to a story that really wasn't proven, and in fact, I believe we're actually going to reverse this ban soon, but I can't speak on it yet since it's a legal matter. But yeah, in the state of Florida, Sarasota County is the only one. And then the American Kratom Association, they recently have a map of the U.S. and they have the states shaded that it's illegal, or well, we call it a ban. I mean, not illegal, because sometimes the state is legal, but there's a city that it's banned in. So if you go to the americankratom.org, you can look on that. It's the 2021 Kratom State Legality and Legislation, and it's a map, and it has the states that are blocked out or that have a ban in maybe one of the cities.
Okay, good. Yes, I actually remember looking at that map. I definitely wanted you to talk more about Florida specifically, so thank you for talking about that. I wanted to ask too, so I know this is something, I know we're kind of in a situation here in the US where we look at different plant medicines, different substances out there, and you see this evolution of, you know, sometimes things get banned and they become legal.
Right.
So I was going to ask, so let's say somebody's listening to this and they are, let's say, looking to get a new job, or they need to do a background check or a drug screen, something like that. Can you speak to any concerns? I know some people are going to say, okay, well, if I take this, is that going to be a problem when it comes to, drug tests? I know
Right.
there's going to be a lot of variation depending on the actual person that is going to be hiring them, for example. But
Right.
can you kind of just generally give some information related to um, drug testing and if this is something people need to be concerned about?
Yeah, so on a regular drug testing panel, there is no kratom test part of that. So if you're taking just the regular drug testing panel, it is not included in there. It would have to be a special test, and there would have to be a reason for it. So if you're in a state and kratom is not banned anywhere in your state or your city, and you have an employer that's doing a drug test, there's no reason to test for kratom. So there's no worries there. Um, if you're in a state where it's banned, they still don't have the test as part of the regular drug test kit. It would be a separate test. And I've never heard of anybody actually getting tested for it for a job, even in a banned city or state, but things could be changing. And then now there's people that are, on probation. Maybe they're going through rehabilitation. And in that situation, they're not supposed to have anything. I know some people are in strict rehabilitation centers where they absolutely cannot, they're not even supposed to drink coffee. And then there's people that are in rehabilitation centers where they're allowed to have plant medicine. So it really depends where you are. So I always tell people the best thing to do is ask, are you for kratom or against kratom? If this is a private business, of course. But as far as when it comes to state or federal, if it's not illegal in your state and it's not illegal in a federal ban, which is what we're keeping it as, then there should be no reason to drug test for kratom.
Okay, no, I appreciate it. And, I was going over the literature, looking up some different articles, and just wanted to give you some time to talk about, when we talk about different plant medicines, and usually, I mean, right, that's kind of the general thing we can say is, when you're getting it from Mother Earth and it's used in a way that is sound, and if it's used appropriately, it can deliver some benefits for people. And generally speaking, when you compare that to the sort of things that are going on in conventional medicine, the synthetic medications, um, you know, these things can be a safer um, option for people in many cases to help them deal with some of the issues they're dealing with, help them feel better in a natural way without, necessarily having a doctor's prescription or anything like that. That being said, like I said, even water can have its problems if it's used incorrectly. So, just from your personal experience working with your clients, are there any particular side effects, just like many other things, right? Is there any
Yeah.
particular side effects you think, people should maybe be aware of? Or, even caffeine, right? I mean, we know that if you get used to drinking a lot of caffeine, especially if you drink too much or you drink it too frequently, if you drink it too late, it can have some unpleasant side effects.
Right.
Again, it's oftentimes comes back to how is it being used. But just
Yeah.
generally speaking, when you see it being used, are there any side effects people may just need to be on the lookout for? And also from um, a view of, like, for example, we know that if somebody's drinking a pot of coffee per day and then all of a sudden they just cut the
Right.
coffee out, they may feel some pretty
Yes.
significant side effects from that, right?
Right. Right.
But you know, there's still safe. It's not like drinking a liter of vodka for 5 years every day and then
Right.
just cutting, or taking benzodiazepines or something and then just cutting. Like, that's a different situation.
Yeah. Very different.
Right. Like, totally different. We're talking about natural plant medicine that obviously so many people, they use it in a safe way. But just from your experience, can you talk a little bit about potential side effects people may have, and any concerns about, like, if they were to discontinue it, maybe
Yeah.
maybe for
So now, remember, I've been involved with Kratom since 2014, and I became a business in 2016. But since 2014 up until now, and with all the research I've done and being part of the community and the American Kratom Association, and being updated with University of Florida and the College of Pharmacy, reading all of the research, the one thing that we can talk about is, from what we know so far, because there's never been in all of history from its origin of Southeast Asia, there have never been any deaths or issues from kratom, which is quite amazing. But unless you have it documented from the 1800s, which is when it was first founded, you know, if it's not documented, we're not allowed to say this or that. We can only say, well, this is what we know. And that's why we're doing all the research now. But the only thing is, like you spoke about coffee, it is part of the coffee family. So if you're taking kratom every day and, you know, 6 months and then you decide you don't want to take it really depends on you. We've heard some people say they get a little bit of like a almost like a caffeine headache, since it is from the coffee family. I've had a couple of clients that said, you know, it's just more like a little bit of a headache and like a fatigue. Same again, same thing. Like, you've been drinking coffee every day for 10 years and then you just don't drink it one day. But other than that, and it's amazing that this is why we get, you know, we get confused when they tried to ban it. I mean, and we did prove them wrong. There is nothing that has been connected to kratom when it comes to death from kratom or any type of medical issues from kratom. Now, if you go on Google and you just type in kratom deaths, you know, you'll see CDC study finds, you know, drug caused death, a link to, attributed to, but you'll never find any research that says this person died from kratom. Even when we've had people do a autopsy, it shows poly drug use, meaning they have found cocaine, crack, heroin, and Kratom, but unfortunately, the FDA, because they want to ban it so much, they'll say that, it was from the Kratom. Well, they'll never say it was. They'll use those words, linked to, attributed to, but there's no factual evidence to it. And that is why we continue fighting. And now that's why we also have the research to show it.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that because, yeah, that's kind of what I was looking at when I was looking at the literature,
Mhm.
and that's the way, you see people, especially these various agencies, they use their language in a particular way. And it's like you said, polypharmacy, poly substance abuse
Right.
is a real thing. A lot of people, it's like the amount of people in this country using multiple pharmaceutical meds or multiple recreational drugs. I mean, it's pretty common. And so this idea of, being able to say, oh, well, this has been linked to this, or, oh, this is caused by this, or, anybody that says that about something like kratom, it's like, well, the question I ask is, okay, well, where did you hear that from? And
Right.
what were the other substances in the body at the time? Because we know, right, like you said, if you're seeing heroin and cocaine and
Yeah.
meth, for example, and then
Well,
you have
yeah,
kratom, I'm not going to be overly concerned that, oh, it was the kratom. I'm looking at the heroin and I'm looking at
right.
the cocaine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I
FDA
understand.
did, there was the FDA claimed that there were 44 kratom deaths. This was a few years ago. And so the American Kratom Association was like, okay, no, I mean, we're open to it, of course. If this is from kratom, we need to know. We're advocating for something that's helping people. But if there's something that's hurting, human beings, then we need to know. So we looked into it, we did the research, and one of them, they labeled it a kratom death, and it was actually a gunshot wound. And I'm not even kidding. This was, I mean, the fact that they tried to call a gunshot wound death, and because he had kratom in his system, they labeled it as kratom related. So now when you take that and you put that in the news as your headline, kratom related death, but then you have to actually go and read the first or second paragraph. Oh, man was shot, had gunshot wound and died. But because the headline said, oh, kratom, kratom death, we have to be so careful. And especially these days, we have to really make sure we do our own research and, like you said, critical thinking. And, you know, it's really sad that the FDA is supposed to be looking out for us and protecting us. But I'll tell you, being in this business and being in this industry and seeing how they lied about even this amazing natural leaf, I really got to go inside and notice that, wow, we have to be very careful and just make sure we do our own research.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's time that more and more people, and you're seeing this, I'm seeing this, more and more people are questioning the simplistic narrative.
Yeah,
Instead of just being a passive recipient of information, they're going out and using the critical thinking, going out and looking it up, thinking for themselves, and not just taking this information as necessarily being 100% true. So, like you said, when some simplistic news article, is on the mainstream, usually like right mainstream media channel saying, "Oh, this death was attributed to this," but it's like if you actually look at the real story, because it
yeah,
is the way of the world, right? It's usually more nuance that needs to be discussed. More information needs to be collected. People want those simplistic sound bites.
oh
Uh,
yeah,
the fact of the matter is, like you said, if you just look into it, use some critical thinking, and see, and again, I always think about risk versus benefit, and I from what I've learned so far, and appreciate you coming on here and talking more about it, when I consider it, it's one of those tools I think that's out there, and just like anything else, it could be used in a way that's not good, right? But it's a
right.
tool out there that obviously a lot of people have derived significant benefit from. I'm glad to know about it. I'm, I'm glad to be aware of some of the personal testimonials out there of people who've for example, been able to get off of pretty serious drugs.
Oh
Okay,
yeah,
people that were
getting their life back.
really hooked on some, in a very serious way on some drugs, and how, for example,
Yeah.
kratom was able to be used, leveraged as a tool. Of course, has to be done in a way that is safe and everything, but could be used to help that person get to a better spot in their lives. And so I really appreciate you being on here. Is there anything else that you personally would like to say? I definitely uh, want to have you have a opportunity here, an opportunity to give a shout out so that you can be able to tell people where they can learn more about you and your company and the value that you're providing. I want you to be able to do that. But do you have anything else in particular you'd like to share about your business, about
I guess
Kratom?
what I probably should have got into a little bit too is I know that people get confused on the way to take kratom. And you know, we're very lucky in Florida. We have what are called tea lounges. I'm sure I think Anthony, you've been to one already,
Yes, I have.
but they're pretty cool. I mean, it's like going to a coffee shop, but they also have kava and kratom. And so we get the experience of being able to have it brewed as a tea here. But unfortunately, most states don't have that. They can't just show up to this cool tea lounge and have everything prepared for them. So I'll tell you what people do. A lot of people do what's called TNW, that's called toss and wash. It's when you take the powder and you put it on the back of your throat and then you chase it with, usually a lot of people like to use orange juice because of the acidic value in there. But I personally cannot do that, but that's one way. There are capsules out there. You can either make your own, you can buy a capsule maker. A lot of people like to do that. Or you can actually buy, I don't sell capsules, but some vendors do sell capsules. The problem is you have to take so many of them, and keep in mind when you take a capsule, you have to wait for the capsule to get into your bloodstream. So it takes a little bit longer. And then we have the powder, which is what I sell and what I brew. I brew mine as a tea, or some people just put it in their smoothie or their protein shake. I have a lot of people that are in the weightlifting industry, working out, fitness, and they just take their small little spoon and they dump it in their protein shake with a banana and some chocolate protein. So, if anybody ever has questions, you can always email me. I'll give my information in a bit. Also, there's tons of YouTube videos now to teach you how to make a tea. It's not as hard as it sounds. It's actually really simple. And you can even make like a big brew, maybe on a Sunday night, and then just put it in ice throughout the week and have it, every day if you need it every day. Or you can just warm it up at night, add some lemon in there and some honey. In mine, I like to add cinnamon and turmeric. Cinnamon is really great for inflammation, which I have some issues with. Turmeric is really great for you. And so you basically combine all of this into a pot, let it simmer for a bit, and that's it. You have your tea. So that's something I just noticed. That's a big thing. I always get people asking me about the strains, which we went over, because there's so many marketing funky and wacky names out there. So, to reiterate, red, white, and green, and then how to take it. And then, I get people asking me, well, how much should I start with? How much should I take? And this is hard because when you're in this business and because we're not approved by the FDA, we're not supposed to give any, advice when it comes to that, because they can consider that medical advice or a medical claim. So I always tell people just, start with 4 grams. And that's all I say, because it's up to the person from there to do their own research. But 4 grams is what we usually recommend to start out with, because you can always go up from there. They also have these, little, sometimes vendors that you buy from have these little spoons that are just for 4 grams to make it easy for you. Because a lot of people take a teaspoon and they don't know how to measure in grams. And then I was the same way. You're like, how many grams are in a teaspoon? How many grams are in a tablespoon? You're like, I failed math. I don't know. So, those are the questions that I always get. And then, like you asked me earlier, any kind of withdrawals or feelings that can come from it. And we went over that, similar to coffee. And remember, it's from the coffee family. And, like we always talk about, speak to your doctor. I think if you have a doctor that is open to natural medicine, homeopathic, plant medicine, I mean, that's great because usually the doctor right there will already probably be taking Kratom with you, and I probably sold it to him. So we have some great doctors that I think are opening up more and more to natural medicine. And the doctors that I work with, it's sad because these days doctors are being told what to do. They're not able to work with their patients like they used to. It's almost like they're sent a script and they have to go along with the script. And if they don't, then they're always scared they're going to get their medical license taken away, or they're scared they're going to be audited and there'll be some fabrication in there. So I always tell people, just try to work with a doctor who's open to natural medicine and who's, like Anthony mentioned, let's get to the bottom of why this is happening. Why do you have this problem? Why are you getting this pain? Why do you have this inflammation? And in the meantime, we've got this amazing plant that can help you while you discover this and get on your journey with your health.
Awesome. Wow, you really provided a lot of good information here. And I really like that really practical information as far as, how to take it, for example, a good
Yeah.
starting point, and general tips. That's stuff I know people are going to be really interested in. So thanks for that value. And yeah, really, I
Oh,
appreciate you getting
Anthony,
on. Anything else?
yeah, I think what else I should mention is the KCPA Act. So the American Kratom Association, they came up with this, and it's the Kratom Consumer Protection Act. So what it does is it is making sure that vendors who import it into the country are following all the safety, sort of like I talked about earlier, making sure that they're getting the product lab tested, making sure that their packaging is sealed correctly. Back in the days, years and years ago, I remember you can buy Kratom in a Ziploc bag and they would just write on the bag with a Sharpie. We don't want that happening anymore. The real true vendors that actually care about this business and want to help people, it does cost more money. Lab testing is not cheap, but it's keeping it legal. And so when a state or a city tries to ban it, the Kratom Consumer Protection Act is our way of saying, no, instead of banning it, let's introduce this act into your city or state where we make sure the people selling it are following these protocols. So you'll see also on that map we were talking about earlier, they'll have, I believe there's like one color will show you the KCPA Act. And that will show you the states or cities that were trying to ban it, but instead they said, okay, we won't ban it, but we'll make sure our vendors follow this. And that's awesome because listen, would you rather them ban it, or would you rather know that the people selling it are being safe, and they're looking out for your safety? So just keep that in mind. That's something that we're actually pushing through the American Kratom Association right now. I'm really proud that I've been following them, and the team there is just amazing. They are so passionate, and it's all built on donations. So if you or any of your friends ever have an extra dollar or two, go to americankratom.org and donate, even if it's $1, but it keeps this going, and it keeps these lobbyists that can go and speak for us and make sure that it doesn't become banned in any of these cities or states.
Okay, well, thank you, Lynette. I really appreciate it. Could you go ahead and just provide for the listening audience how they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, so my website is desaleaf.com, Desa, DESA, Leaf, LEAF.com. And then my email is Lynette, LYNETTE @desaleaf.com. Feel free to question me with even if you think it's just a random question like, hey, I just bought this white, I forgot what I'm supposed to do. Like, I don't mind at all. I get people that are brand new, and I get people that have been doing this for 10 years. So I love educating and helping people. It's not just about selling. So if you want to email me or reach out to me just to talk, you don't have to buy from me. I don't need that. I just need to make sure that we're educating and keeping this plant legal.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. And for anyone who's interested, I'm going to have information below this video if you're watching this on YouTube. I'll also be posting about this on the Anthony Mosora Facebook page as well. And for any listening audience member out there, feel free to get in touch with me if you have any questions, and I can connect you with Lynette or do whatever I can to assist you in that way. So really, Lynette, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for being on this video interview with me here, and or rather an audio interview. So that's a good thing, and we'll go ahead and have this available for the listening audience here in the future. And again, everyone out there, just best to you, to your health, to your prosperity, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thanks, Lynette. Have a good one.
Good.